Subs, Dkirks.
And it's Doty. We got another good one here for you guys. We have Dkirk's best friend, Kyle Morris.
Yeah, Kyle's a great personal success story. Grew up small town kid, simple pleasures, to become a Army Ranger, veteran, college grad, tech entrepreneur.
Unbelievable. Just from the beginning, just simple pleasures and then the badass stories of training and then his time overseas. And then now hearing what he's doing, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome story. It was great talking with him.
Yeah, I thought Kyle had a lot of great insights. Difference between being a manager and a leader. And, talking about how veterans have a different perspective and they have a obligation to be leaders of this country and support it. And it's really interesting talking to him. I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, it was really, really awesome. Listen, so let's get into it.
Let's go. Kyle, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. What are you sipping on?
I have some soda water from a soda stream.
Ooh.
What are you guys sipping on?
Got some fancy new Clutch coffee mugs. Clutch sent us some sweet little Dkirks and Doty tumblers.
Fancy.
I think we are officially official with our faces on these tumblers.
Donkey, didn't you make these Yeti mugs for us at Kicksaw?
Yeah, I did. Those are sweet. Yeah. I've been using that one, and the other ones, if you watch our YouTube, that's what I'm sipping out of.
Everybody on the team loves them.
They're great. So a little backstory for everybody. Kyle, we met in 5th grade. Do you remember quickly how we met?
My impression or my rough memory is both walking home, and it turns out we lived a block or two away from us. The grade school was a mile from our house or something like that. We're walking back and you lived 2 blocks away. You were new to town. There weren't any other kids that were dudes that were our age that lived within a few blocks of us. So we started shooting BB guns out in the forest kind of behind your house. So that's how things got going. You had a trampoline, which was sweet. My parents didn't. My parents had a pool. So you were all at my house. And then from there, and then we played sports and it overlapped a ton there and then been friends ever since.
Yeah.
Sounds like an awesome childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of bad stories in there too, but we'll avoid dumb stuff that we did in Molalla. So, Kyle, you grew up. Your mom's Filipino.
Yeah.
Dad Caucasian in a small town of Molalla.
Yeah.
Molalla, Oregon.
Yeah.
I'm gonna preface this by saying I think your dad is maybe one of the smartest people I know, but your parents have really simple pleasures. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah. My parents are awesome. I feel like the luckiest person given my parents. So my parents, my mom had me when she was 19. My dad was 29. They weren't married. They're the most in love people ever. They absolutely love each other. My dad met my mom, she was just out of high school. She worked the same job from when she was 15 to 45, 50. She worked at a nursing home as a nurse's assistant her whole life. Worked super hard. My dad, he worked really hard as a salesperson, and I have absorbed so much from them. My dad is really outgoing and super fun and laughs all the time. My mom is super friendly and fun and warm, but more reserved and quiet. And I kind of have this quietness side of me, but also this my dad side who's loves to joke and be outgoing. So it's this weird mix. But simple pleasures. My parents, we would go out to the Oregon coast. My parents did not have a lot of money. My buddy or my dad's friend owned a little crappy cabin on the Oregon coast outside of Tillamook, and he owed my dad $1,000 or something like that. And so my dad, as a trade-off, would use his cabin out on the coast, and it was tiny. And we would go every single weekend, and we'd go dig clams and catch fish and get mussels and all that type of stuff. We just hang out on the beach because my parents didn't have cash to go do expensive things. So we'd go do that. So they'd pay for gas. We'd just go back and forth. We'd go Thanksgiving, spend weeks out there all the time. So the Oregon coast is a place I really love, but that exposure to, you don't have a lot, but you can do a lot of things was really important to me. Is you don't need a ton to have a good time, especially with good people.
Love that.
Totally. That definitely, you described your parents in a nutshell. It's exactly what I think of. Your dad is just fun, loud, and then your mom a little more reserved, but when she's having fun, she's also loud too.
Yeah, if my mom knows you, she's the best person to be around. But if she's never met you, she'll be quiet and kind of warm up to you. But it's funny, Thanksgivings, one thing that we did in our family that was different is my mom, I said, worked at a nursing home since she was 15. one way that she would work to make extra money, she'd work double shifts on holidays. So on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, she was working double shifts, which meant we kind of couldn't celebrate on traditional holidays, Thanksgiving, stuff like that. She was always working. So we would always do stuff either the day before or the day after, which was great because then everybody's available the day before Christmas. And so we would have people over because like Daniel in this example, his family would celebrate stuff on Christmas Day. He's not doing anything Christmas Eve, come kick it with us. So like we have these awesome get-togethers with all my friends would come over. And so that's been a really positive thing about like, seemed like a bummer that might, you know, we can't celebrate on Christmas, but it's like, actually it ended up being better because now we could invite way more people over because they weren't doing anything on these days. So it was a trade-off. You know, my mom would work these double shifts and come home wiped out, and we just have these fun get-togethers afterwards.
Yeah, we still have those to this day, right? I mean, we still have a giant
4th of July.
Yeah, 4th of July too.
Yeah, 4th of July is big Molalla. Plus my birthday is on the 6th of July. My dad's is on the 9th. And so there's just a lot of things, and everybody's around on the 4th of July. There's no one's working. It's summertime. It's super nice where we grew up. So everyone wants to come over. We had a pool. So it was like all these things came together really nicely. The fireworks are going off in Molalla. There's a big rodeo. So everybody wants to be in town, and it makes it like my parents' home feels like a hub for all of my friends because they're so warm and welcoming to all my friends. They love all my friends.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, when I think about my childhood, I lived in a 50 house like neighborhood, and it was like one big circle. And like to your point, yeah, you all just kind of go to one place and you just hang out and you play manhunt or you play capture the flag or you just do random things that are so simple but just so fun.
Totally. That's us for sure.
That's awesome.
So Kyle, you grew up, there's a photo you've shared on Instagram a few times of a chubby football player that is absolutely hilarious.
Who was that? Who was that?
Me.
Who was that? Oh.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah. I mean, I was a chubby kid like my whole life up until like going into the military and getting ready for that. I was like, I mean, I played sports since I was in 4th grade, 5th grade, played basketball, football. And then, you know, as I got closer to joining the military, which we can get into, I started trying to get in shape because like one of the things you got to do is be able to run. And prior to joining the military, I'd not run more than a mile in my life. And trying to get into the Rangers, you got to be able to do 5-mile runs in 8-minute miles. So like for me, that was a huge obstacle to overcome as a person who'd never run. I played like a lineman. I never run more than a mile. Like, why would I? So that was like a thing I had to learn how to do. And that like totally dramatically shifted my life, like learning how to exercise in that way, or doing endurance sports is so different than like lifting and pushing people around in football.
Yeah. What made you want to shift that from being the nose tackle or the front line to then being a runner?
I was going to the military, and to make it through the selection, you have to pass certain running standards. So one was like a 2-mile run under 14 minutes or a 5-mile run and a 5-mile run under 40 minutes. So you got to be able to do those things. Those are minimums to get through, not where you need to be there, just the minimum. So like I knew going into it, these were the standards I had to meet. So I started prepping for it. So going from junior to senior year of high school, I was running all the time. And Daniel and all of the friends we grew up with were all cross-country runners. In Molalla, it was like the top cross-country team in the state for 3A, like year after year after year. So I was exposed to runners, and I was just a non-runner, but I was hanging out with them. So I just started like running around with them. Going into senior year, I did track. I'd never done track before. And I ran distance because I wanted to learn how to run distance. So I'd never done it before, and I was terrible, but they let me hang, and I did JV, and it was fun. And I learned how to do it.
So you kind of grew up like your dad was in the military.
Yeah.
You kind of grew up in the military. I would assume you guys went like shooting sometimes for fun, sporadically. I vividly remember sitting in a Senior Ross class as a junior, I believe, when 9/11 happened.
Sure.
And I remember like a conversation, or you said something along the lines of like, this is why I wanted to become in the military. Did you know like your entire life that you wanted to be in the military, or was it 9/11 that kind of spurred it? When was that? When did that click?
Yeah. So for context, my dad was in the Air Force in the 70s, right out of high school. His dad was in the Navy in the early 50s after World War II, kind of didn't go to Korea or anything like that. My great-grandfather was in World War II and wounded in the Philippines. So like the concept of the military was an option. Like if you have never known anyone who's in the military, it's kind of like you wouldn't even think to do it. But like my dad had been in the military, they didn't encourage me to do it, but it was a thing. And so what happened was getting into, junior year, kind of getting into junior year. I mean, Band of Brothers had just came out. I was reading military books. I'm a 16-year-old dude. Of course, that's interesting to me. And then obviously September 11th happened, and it was just like, that seems like a draw, like totally what I'm going to go fight against. And so we had a friend growing up, Matt, who was very versed in all these military concepts. So like I was kind of learning from him. He was just talking about it all the time. And it turned out there's a thing called buddy program in the military. So he was like, let's join in the buddy program. We'll go into the Army and become Rangers. I was like, I don't know what this is. So I did start doing research. We started prepping for it. And then his mom wouldn't let him enlist because she was like, I don't want my kid to go to war as an Army Ranger. My parents allowed me to, they just didn't stop me. So that was kind of how the military became a thing. But, you know, my parents didn't have money for school. How was I going to pay for college? I had no options on how to do that. I didn't have great grades. I hadn't taken the SATs. Military seemed like it solved a lot of problems. Like when I enlisted, you get kind of a amount of money for college and you get cash bonus. Like the military is trying to attract people. And I took the maximum amount I could for college and the minimum cash bonus. So I got $50K for college and $3,000 as a cash bonus. And when I was in the military, I added more money to the fund, which would pay for more college. So I was like, that was clearly my path to get an education, to get into what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so, yeah.
Yeah, vehicle for school. But,
For sure.
but like backtrack, like you were an exceptional student. If you would have taken it, you like kind of like rolled your eyes a little bit. I mean,
Sure.
you and
You're a smart
I,
guy.
we would battle in like Spanish class for, you know, with everybody else for great grades. Like you were a good
Sure.
student.
I was a good student.
Had you taken the SATs, you would have gotten a reasonable score to get into this. So Army was just a vehicle to get in later in life. And
For sure. It didn't ever feel like college was unattainable. It was just like totally unclear how you get money to even pay for it. Like I also didn't have any family members who'd gone to college. It was like I was the first person in my family who went. So like that was unclear. It's like I just didn't have anyone to lean on to be like, okay, what's my process for getting funding? Like how do you fill out the forms to get cash? Like I just didn't know. But you know, the military, it's a couple of advantages. One, I got cash directly, but second is like I got to be 4 years older. Going to college as a 22-year-old compared to an 18-year-old is night and day. Plus I'd lived on my own. I'd made money on my own. I'd just like grown up. And it made it so when I showed up to college, I had a mission. I was super organized. Like I know a lot of people that we know, they go to college and they just kind of meander from thing to thing. They don't, if you're 19, what the hell do you know, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're 22, you've at least got some experience under your belt and some direction as to where you want to go. So that was really helpful for me. If I would have gone when I was 18, it would have been probably not good.
Yeah, just for context, also you spoke at our high school graduation. So like there was some, you know, good student in there. Not that Kyle's, I feel like he's kind of dumbing that down. But okay, so you go to basic training in Fort Benning, Georgia at 18. Yeah. This is in 2003. Your mom goes to graduation. Is that I know there's some story like your mom hadn't been outside of the state of Oregon or outside of Oregon, Washington, right? Like,
I mean, my parents had rarely traveled outside of kind of the Northwest. I mean, I'm sure they'd driven to Idaho. I don't know that they spent time in California, but flying to Georgia, they'd never been to the East Coast, never to the South. That was a new exposure for them. So like I'm graduating basic training, they're flying down there, eating barbecue, kind of getting to see a completely different culture than Molalla, Oregon.
But it was a big deal to them, right? Like it was a big deal for you to just graduate from basic training.
Yeah. I mean, again, I was 18 years old and I went from, you know, you go to like a football camp or something for 2 or 3 days to I'm gone for 3 months, 4 months. Like that's a first real time away and no real communication other than writing letters and an occasional call home. So that was like a challenge. I remember basic training. It was just like, you know, looking back on it wasn't that bad, but you know, at 18, it's kind of a big deal. And so I had a clear mission as to what I wanted to do. So that was a stepping stone. I was so grateful to see my parents, but then right after that, I went to jump school. So I went to Airborne School right after that. That was like the next thing in line, went to that. And then I went to selection for the Rangers, went through that process.
Don't skim through that. That's like, I feel like that's nitty gritty. So what was going on in the world in terms of war in 2003 in that time? Do you know?
Yeah. So when I joined the Army in August, we had just invaded Iraq as of like May, June, or is like February to June was kind of when the invasion of Iraq went down. So we'd already been in Afghanistan for a while. We're pivoting to Afghanistan. We were pivoting to Iraq. I'm going through basic training, hearing concepts of what's going on. Do you remember major power outages on the East Coast, like in the early 2000s? Like the whole East Coast was down for like 24 hours. I was in basic training and they were like, has there been another terrorist attack? We didn't get access to the news. We had no idea.
I think we thought that the power plants were going to be attacked.
Totally.
Yeah,
I'm going through basic training thinking like part of the East Coast is wiped out. Like we don't know. And so, I mean, you get little inklings of news as to what's going on, but in short, we were invading Iraq, going through that process. And I was basically heads down doing training.
So how you mentioned, so how long were you in basic training? Then you go to Airborne School. How long does that take? What is the process of becoming from basic training to becoming an Army Ranger? And what does that timeline look like?
Yeah, for sure. So basic training is like 12 weeks. It's 9 weeks of basic plus 4 weeks of additional training or 3 weeks, whatever that is. I was infantry, so they combine it all into one. If you were to join to be like a medic, you'd go through basic training, then you'd go to separate medical training school that may be in a totally different state.
And you knew what you wanted to do from the jump.
Yeah, when I enlisted, I got a contract to go to selection for the Rangers as an infantryman, specifically an infantryman. They have them sometimes for mortar guys or medics or communication guys, very clear. Mine was for infantry. I was specifically selecting for that. So it was 12 weeks of basic training and stuff. Then jump school is 3 weeks plus like some time on the either end to kind of transition over. It's within 3 miles of each other. So you go through basic training and they put you on a bus and you go straight to jump school and you go through that process. You learn how to jump out of airplanes over a 3-week period. You do 5 jumps. And it's like, if you've seen Band of Brothers, it's like the World War II style. You got these chutes that you can't control. You just jump out of a plane and go. So they teach you how to do that stuff.
My great uncle did that in World War II.
Way harder than me. I mean, I never jumped out of a plane while I was getting shot at or anything like that. And in combat, in training, you jump from typically 1,500 to 2,000 feet. Pretty low to the ground relatively. When you're in combat, you're jumping at 500 feet. So you jump out of a plane, you're supposed to count to 4. And if your chute hasn't opened, you pull your reserve because you're that close to the ground. Well, when you're jumping at 500 feet, if you count to 4 and your chute hasn't opened, you just hit the ground. There's nothing you can do. Yeah. So sometimes when you jump in combat, they'll just remove your reserve chute because it's like, if this isn't open, you're done skis. There's nothing you can do. So in training, like, count to 4. Oh, it didn't work. Pull it. But for the most part, it was real. There were guys who had never flown in a plane before they first jumped out of one. Because they went to basic training and jump school, but they grew up in Georgia and they'd never flown. They're on their first plane ride about to jump out of it. I can't imagine what that would have been like, but real scary.
My twin brother is a licensed one skydiver. So cool. He would have like that small pack and he's a 6'4", 250, like big dude doing that stuff. Can't imagine. I've never done it before.
It's not fun. It's not pleasurable because you're following it. I mean, the chutes are designed when you jump out of a plane to get you from the sky to the ground as fast as possible without hurting you. Think of like, what's the threshold of like, how fast can we get them down without them getting injured? So sometimes guys get injured, sometimes, bad stuff happens, but you're falling at roughly 20 feet per second, which is pretty fast. It's like jumping off a 1-story roof and hitting the ground. So you have to learn how to fall the right way and stuff like that. And it doesn't ever happen like you want. Guys get tangled up bad. Like, so I'd had in the Rangers, I got into there was a parachute accident where I was almost tangled up with a guy. So what happened, it's called leapfrogging. So you have 2 chutes that are coming down. And sometimes if you get real close to each other, one chute will spill over the other. And then it loses all its air and it falls and it catches. And then this one does the same thing. And so you start leapfrogging, falling like 40 feet at 50 feet at a time towards the ground. And you've only got 30 seconds before you hit the ground anyways. And you can't control it. You think of parachutes, you can like steer this way or steer that way. These are designed so you can't control them. They just get you to the ground as fast as possible. They don't want you steered into each other. So me and this guy were leapfrogging on a nighttime jump, full combat gear, jumping onto an airfield. So we're going to land on tarmac, not on the ground, on road. And we're leapfrogging coming down. Anyways, it's nighttime, so you can't really see anything. We're leapfrogging. My chute falls and catches, and I slam to the ground, like knocks the wind out of me. I sit up. He's like, I could touch him. We were that close to each other coming down. He sits up. I was like, hey, what happened? He's like, I broke my leg. It shattered, compound fracture. And he was right next to me. The dude, so we were in the Rangers at the time. I know we're getting ahead, but he broke his leg. He got sent out of the military, shattered his leg, can't ever run again. And it was like literally him or me based on how we were leapfrogging. And I just barely missed that. And he was like one of the top runners in all the Ranger battalions. Like he would run in these competitive runs. Can't ever run for the rest of his life.
Hey, that's where being a chubby kid kind of paid off. You're a little, a little thick. You're built for that.
Sturdier. I don't roll my ankles very often.
Sturdy. Okay, so you Airborne School.
Yeah.
Now, what does Army Ranger training look like?
So it's different now. At the time, they have it's called Ranger Indoctrination Program, or it was a 3-week program, 3-4 weeks or so, where they just like smoke you and beat the shit out of you for 3 weeks. So you wake up, you go on 5-mile run, you do push-ups all day long because they're pissed at you because someone made a mistake. They put you through basic training on like land navigation and things like that to try to prepare you to get to a Ranger battalion and be able to execute. Because you got to figure that this time in 2003, 2004, the Ranger battalions were at war. You are going to get deployed almost immediately as soon as you get there. So they've got to give you the basics to be able to start doing missions pretty darn quick. So they teach you the basics of shooting and stuff like that. But you basically get your balls smoked off for 3 weeks. That's it. You're just doing push-ups for hours and hours and hours and hours. And a bunch of people quit. But they have some basic things like you got to pass a 5-mile in X amount of time, like I was talking about, some fitness tests. Yeah. But yeah, after that 3-week period, you get a tan beret. It's like a fancy thing. It's like a big thing. You get Ranger panties, which Daniel knows, but they're basically, in the Rangers, you wear workout gear, which is different from the regular Army. Most of the Army's wearing these gray, lame shirts and sweats. In the Rangers, you get real short shorts, like really short, and they're awesome. Girls love them. Like when we do
like Reno, what's that show?
Reno, yeah, only shorter and thinner, and you can see
they're like runner shorts.
Sure. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Marines call them silkies. Everyone in the military mostly calls them Ranger panties. So you get those, you earned it, you get to go buy Ranger panties, and it's like a sign of eliteness because only Rangers get to wear these things. So, you first earn them and then you get sent to a Ranger battalion. So there are 3 Ranger battalions, 2 in Georgia, 1 in Washington. I was like, I got to go to Washington. This is where I want to, it's close to home. It's an hour and a half from my house. I don't want to be in Georgia. This place sucks. It's hot and humid and like, I don't like it here. So we had like 100 guys graduating from my RIP class, the selection. And I got to go to 2nd Ranger Battalion. I got picked, or there were 14 slots available and I got one of them. So we got sent to 2nd Ranger Battalion, again, an hour and a half from my house. Got stationed there, showed up 30 days later, did my first mission overseas.
Yeah. What does that look like? So you're there, like, how do you remember where you got the call, how you got told, like all that type of stuff? That's got to be a pretty vivid memory, right?
Yeah. So one thing to think about is there are 3 Ranger battalions. One of them is on a rotation at the time, 100% of the time. There's always a Ranger battalion deployed, sometimes multiple Ranger battalions. So like you do 3 months overseas, 6 months at home, and then another one comes there, and then you basically do this rotation. So you're there, literally the day you're going to fly out and the day you're going to fly home, and even the next deployment's fly out, fly home day. So it's totally in your mind. When this stuff is happening. So I get to 2nd Ranger Battalion and I get assigned to a squad and a platoon. They're like, we're leaving on July 1st to go to Afghanistan. And it's like June 1st. I was like, holy crap, I got to get ready. So like, we're going on 2 weeks of vacation to prepare for this. So I showed up and literally went on vacation. It was awesome. I got 2 weeks of vacation. I went home and hung out and like did my thing, came back. I had a week of training in the States or so. And we were doing shoot houses and stuff, getting ready to go. And we packed up and flew out. I landed in Afghanistan on my birthday. My 19th birthday was my first day in Afghanistan.
Wow, really?
No way.
Yeah. And so we were in Kabul for 2 days. And then on my dad's birthday, July 9th, was my first helicopter ride. And so we were flying out to the eastern part of the country. And I was flying in a Chinook in the middle of the night. And this is a story I've told a bunch of times, but you fly at nighttime because you don't want to get shot down and it's, more discreet. So as we get on the helicopter, it's midnight. It's like 100 degrees in the middle of July in Afghanistan. There's 30 dudes on this helicopter. You're all loaded in for like an hour and a half, 2-hour flight. And we get in, we take off. You know what a Chinook is? It's a big double-bladed helicopters. They're huge. Oh, yeah. So anyways, we take off. We're a minute into the flight. And then the tail explodes. Just like pop, 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 like flashes and boom, boom, boom. And I'm just like, what the I'm about to go down, like on my first mission on my 3rd day in combat, like what's happening? The door gunners are like, da, 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 just like shooting. I was like, what is happening right now? I had no idea what's happening. And it turned out they were all just test firing the guns and flares and stuff. And I had no idea. No one told me that they do that stuff. So I'm sitting there thinking we're 100% going down. I'm about to get KO'd on my first flight, and no one else is reacting. And I'm like about to freak. So everybody likes to look at the new guys on their very first flight because they don't know what's coming. So I learned to do that to new guys too. But yeah, so we go out,
awesome.
fly out to the eastern part of the country, did missions every single night for 3 months.
Every single night.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Oh my
So you're going to catch bad guys every night, if possible. So there's like a sandstorm or something comes up. But yeah, did three months of that, came home, and then did a couple months of training. And then I went to Ranger School. So Ranger School and the Rangers are separate. Everybody gets this confused because they're called the same thing. But in the Rangers, if you want to get promoted to a leadership position, you have to go to Ranger School, which is a leadership school. It's like 2 months. You don't get to eat or sleep basically for 2 months. And they put you through missions in the swamps, in the mountains, and then in the forest. And you learn to patrol and lead people.
Where was that? Where was that school?
It was in Georgia again.
In Georgia again.
The basic training. And then you go into the mountains in a place called Daly, Georgia, in northern Georgia. And then the swamp, it's called Swamp Phase, is down in Florida in the Panhandle. So you go down. Yeah.
So you were with the alligators?
You're walking through waist deep swamps in the middle of like summer, and there's water moccasins and stuff. There's no alligators, I think, where we're at, but it's way creepy. It's like black, brown water.
Yeah.
It's not awesome.
Nope.
So yeah, it's, in Ranger School, it was 2 months. I lost like 30 pounds. You get like 1 meal a day, no more than 4 hours of sleep, normally not consecutive. And you're like expected to lead people in certain situations. So it's a leadership school. You learn how to do this when you're tired. Everybody's tired. It sucks. Finished that, graduated, came back. 30 days later, I did my second deployment. So I came straight home and got sent to deploy because my platoon had deployed while I was in Ranger School. So I came home and just immediately went over and joined them. Did my second deployment in Baghdad in Iraq. Did basically 60 days of missions every single night. And then I did 2 more subsequent deployments to Iraq after that. So it was 4 total deployments, 3 to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan over a 4-year period.
Wow. So when in Baghdad, I remember talking to you on the phone. You guys captured, or the army had captured a palace, right? Saddam's palace. Didn't you stay there, or?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have told you this on the phone while I was overseas because we can't really talk about stuff. But the place we were staying at the time was Saddam had his like favorite house he stayed in, and he had like 10 identical houses built for all of his cronies, and they all had pools and stuff like that. So
that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Us there and some special operations folks stayed in those houses, so we'd be out tanning and stuff during the day and running missions at night. So it's fun.
That's awesome.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
What were so I'm assuming you had a different role all 4 times that you were deployed?
My first deployment, I was like a beginner infantry guy, just carrying a gun, kicking out doors, catching bad guys. Second deployment, I did the kind of same thing, started becoming the radio guy for a platoon, like working with a platoon leader and being communication between higher ups.
Oh, so you're really good at communicating?
No, I was terrible at that job. I was terrible. Third deployment, I was on a search and rescue team. So I was in Iraq, and like basically if a helicopter goes down or guys get wounded, we'd get flying and go help them get out of there. And then on the 4th deployment, I was just in a squad, booting down doors, catching bad guys. So I had 3 different jobs in 4 deployments.
Yeah. Wow.
What was your favorite memory of being overseas?
Ooh, favorite memory of being overseas. Oh, no one's ever asked me that.
Daniel's good at asking good questions.
No, I like it. I think it like your first day overseas is always super, super, super exciting because you've got just so much in front of you. Like people think of deployments as like a negative thing. In the Rangers, you signed up to go do this. You're amped. You've been training. You're ready to do it. You're so pumped. Like you get to go catch some bad dudes. Like anything's in front of you. It's a little scary because like things can go sideways. But the memory I look back on, which was really fun, is kind of crazy, was there was an F-16 that was taking out some guys in a truck. They had some gun on the back and it went down. The guy tried to eject. And we got woken up at like 2 p.m. because normally we run night missions, so you sleep all day. We got woken up. They're like, there's a jet down. You need to go get on helicopters to go get this guy. So guys are running out to the helicopter, like trying to put on gear, and like we're in shorts and Ranger panties and t-shirts running out there going to helped some jet that went down. We get loaded on helicopters. They're trying to figure out who's here and who's still maybe asleep. It was chaos. When we get there and the birds are spinning, we're about to take off. And then it ended up, they canceled it because another team had got in there before we did. But it was like, it felt total like chaos. Like, who knows, you could lose a guy, who knows what's going to happen. But it was kind of exciting because we also never got to do day missions. So it's bright and we're not wearing night vision. It was like, for the first time, you can kind of see what's going on for real compared to night missions where you're in night vision all the time.
Yeah, I would feel like cruising around on a helicopter would be pretty rad. I mean,
oh, dude,
take away the military or the war aspect, just like flying over everything, maybe your feet dangling off. Like, that's got to be really awesome.
You've seen like Black Hawks where dudes like sit in the door with their feet dangling out. The most fun thing you can ever do is flying a little bird, which is there's 2 pilots in a little bird and they have benches on the outside of the helicopter. You sit in, you strap in, and they fly and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Fast roping in. It's the coolest job you can have when you're 19, 20-year-old dude. It's like so fun. So that was
people go to amusement parks and get that thrill off roller coasters. You're hanging out the side of a really cool helicopter doing shit like that. That's pretty
You get to do it for real though. You're like going to catch real bad guys, not like playing a video game. You're like really going in. So it's fun.
But you could also get shot or, there's some bad stuff out there too. So that's the downside.
Yeah, there's trade-offs.
So you enlist for 4 years. Yeah. Right out of high school.
Yeah.
And you only did 4 years. So, right. Correct.
Yeah. 4. Yeah.
So you get out of, how did you transition to Oregon? University of Oregon?
A lot of it was actually through you because I'd go visit you down in Eugene from time to time. I went to classes with you once or twice.
Do you remember that? I do.
I went to an entrepreneurship class and I'm like, who's this kid? But I mean, I knew that, well, when I was transitioning out of the military, I was actually thinking of staying in and trying to become a helicopter pilot. That seemed like the coolest thing you could possibly do. When I was looking to get out or transition, to get into flight school, my impression was you needed like a certain amount of college credit, and me coming in out of high school, I had none of it. So like, I actually couldn't get into the flight program. So I was like, I guess I'm getting out. I basically just applied to Oregon and got in. Looking back, I totally wish I would have applied to harder schools to get into, like Harvard, Stanford. They're all trying to pull in people, veterans who have this unique experience, and they have no one that's been represented from special operations. So like, I probably could have got fast tracked into it. At Oregon, I was like, I've never taken the SATs. They're like, we don't care, you're in, no problem. I was like, I should have tried for a harder school at this point. But so I got into Oregon. I wanted to study entrepreneurship and go to business school. So like, that felt very straightforward. I visited you. I knew Eugene well. We had a friend named Matt that I was going to live with. Like, it seemed to all kind of fall in line. So that's kind of how I got into school there.
So when did the National Guard kick in?
Oh, yeah. So actually, when you join the military, you can't do less than a 6-year enlistment. As in, I signed for 4, you're doing 2 years of what's called inactive ready reserve, which, let's pretend September 11th, part 2 happens. They might call up all the inactive ready reserve people who've been in the military and like deploy them, or if Pearl Harbor happened again. Well, at the time, this was in 2007, all the people who were in for the early parts of the war were starting to get out of the military, and they were having a hard time retaining experienced people throughout the Army. So they were calling up a bunch of IRR people, especially people who'd been in special ops, because they had a lot of really good training. So that was a big fear when you got out. You might get called back up and deployed for a year with a random unit. So it was like this really sketchy situation. But they had this thing where they would say, when you're getting out of the military, for every month you join in the National Guard, we'll take off 1 month of your IRR duty. And so if I signed up for 18 months, they would take 18 months off. I had 3 years left in my enlistment. I think it's like a 7-year anyways. That would basically make it so that you have 18 months in the National Guard. I also, by re-enlisting, I got 2 years of what's called stability, where you can't be deployed for 2 years. So I'm only obligated for 18 months because I've shortened that down, and I have 2 years of stability by re-enlisting, so they can't deploy me. That was my number one thing, is I don't want to be deployed with anyone besides the Special Operations Unit at that time. I didn't want to go with the Eugene National Guard to Iraq or anything like that.
Yeah. So you intern with Patty, which is, I want to hear, I'm going to the Galapagos story, but
yeah,
how did, transition, tell this story, how you interned with Patty, somehow you ended up at the Galapagos. How did that, what was that timeline like?
Wait, who's Patty?
Yeah.
Oh, he's on mute.
Oh, Kyle, you muted.
Sorry. Professional Association of Diving Instructors. So if you ever go learn to scuba dive, you get certified through Patty. There's no question that's who you do it through almost always. Well, my dad had scuba dives since before I was a kid. He was a high schooler or teenager when he learned. So it was always a thing I wanted to do. When I was in the military, I went on a trip to Greece for 2 weeks and I learned to scuba dive while I was there. It was awesome. Well, getting out, I went to college, and Patty had an internship at like 4 universities. Oregon was one of them, because Oregon certifies more people in the world than anyone. It's like Eugene Skin Diver Supply certifies more people. It's crazy.
Me.
Huge.
You're a certified scuba diver?
Hell yeah.
He and I have dove together a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Eugene certifies a lot of people. So Patty was trying to create a program at Oregon, and I saw an internship actually through Daniel and some other people. So I applied for it and I got it. And my job was to advocate for scuba diving in Oregon, and Patty would give us money to help like throw parties and get people involved. So we go on dive trips all the time. And so scuba diving became kind of a bigger thing at Oregon. I got involved with that. And then going from junior to senior year of college, I did a 6-week trip through South America. I went Ecuador, Galapagos, and Peru. When I was in the Galapagos, a lot of background noise. When I was in the Galapagos, I wanted to go work at a dive shop because I wanted to go dive there. And there are these liveaboards you can get onto to go dive out with whale sharks out at their most remote islands. There's Wolf and Darwin Island, the furthest remote Galapagos islands. And there's only a couple boats that go out there, but you can basically see whale sharks like mad, which are these 50-foot sharks that just swim and eat krill. They're super rare, hard to see. Anyways, I go to the Galapagos, and these boats are booked up like 2 years in advance. So you can't really get on. And I show up and I'm working at this dive shop, and they're like, hey, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to get on one of these boats. And then this guy goes, I know the gal who books it. There's one spot available and it's leaving tomorrow. And I was like, please get me on it. So I got on the boat and I got to do a 2-week liveaboard through the most remote islands in Galapagos. It was the most incredible experience. Like you go on a dive, you drop down 60 feet. There'd be millions of fish. You'd hammerheads everywhere. There'd be seals swimming around. There'd be manta rays. And then there'd be a whale shark swimming around. You're like, this is insane. It's like the world-class dive and the best place in the world for sure.
And that was not through like the Army or anything. You just went on vacation?
Yeah, I was backpacking through South America.
Yeah, you're just backpacking.
Yeah. And I ended up there because I wanted to go dive, because I was associated with Patty. So I could kind of say, yeah, I work for Patty. Can you get me onto a liveaboard? Yeah. Like, yeah, they hooked it up. I kind of played that up a little bit.
So you mentioned backpacking through South America. There's a better story involved in this that includes meeting Eliza, your wife, somehow. When did that come about?
So I went through Ecuador, then the Galapagos, and I went to Peru, and I made my way to Cusco. Sorry, back in the background. So I was in Peru and Cusco. I'd just gone to Machu Picchu. I switched hostels, and it was me, an American girl, and an Irish couple in this hostel. Nobody else was there. And she did not like me at all. She hated my guts. So we ended up kind of connecting the next day. It's like a longer story. I know we don't have tons of time, but we ended up meeting in Peru and just met for 24 hours and connected on Facebook back in 2008, 7. And I hit her up because I was going to the Bay Area, and she came, and we basically met each other again in the States and totally hit it off. I was traveling through San Francisco. That's what it was. And so then we started dating while I was finishing up school, and then moved to the Bay Area, and now we got 2 kids.
Yeah, so you graduated from University of Oregon, fast track, you move down to the Bay Area, you start working for a company called Gigya.
Yeah.
You learned to code. How'd you learn how to code?
So at Gigya, I was an entry-level sales rep, cold calling, setting meetings, stuff like that. I ended up managing that team, and the company was hyper growth. So we went from 7 people on my team to 75 in 2 years. So I had to learn how to manage people. I hit the upper limit of my management capacity, and I started running business ops there. So business operations is tools and systems. And I kept running into challenges where I couldn't do what I needed to do. And I needed someone who could code, but no one had availability. So I learned to code. I learned to code in Python. So I spent basically every night and every weekend just practicing and learning. And then I have these ideas for a couple of businesses I wanted to start that would tie into kind of what I was doing in coding. And so I started building products on top of that I started selling. So that was my first business, came out of that as well.
Which is the shirt you're wearing right now.
Zip data. Yeah, there we go.
Did you find any similarities with leading that you learned when you were in Ranger School?
Yeah, I mean, tons of analogies to be able to use. What's hard is I was hiring kids straight out of school. It's hard that went to Brown University or Cal Berkeley, and it's like hard to use military analogies with a 22-year-old who like kind of doesn't get it, who wasn't signed up for that. So like sometimes you can, but I probably took it like 2 steps too far. Yeah, so there's got to be a little bit of balance there. But it's, I mean, in the Rangers, it's tons of leadership opportunities. I was surrounded by good leaders, and I think like some of the things that I learned that were important is like you got to set the example for other people to follow. That's like a really critical thing. Like a lot of leaders don't get that. They think it's all about mandating and telling people what to do. It's like, no way. You gotta demonstrate how to execute, and then people follow you. There's a difference between management and leadership. Management is like a position you're given. Leadership is a position you earn. And there's a big difference. People who are managers want to be leaders, and leaders don't want to generally be managers, right? So there's a difference in sports, right? There's a natural leader versus the team captain. It's not always the same person. And I think that's really important.
Really good. Just to finish off your like personal story. So you start SIF data, you do that, you transition out of Gigya.
Yeah.
Then somewhere along the lines, Kicksaw kicks in.
Yeah. So I was working remotely, started a software company. I was kind of messing around with that. It was garbage. And I was doing Salesforce consulting on the side. So if people don't know what Salesforce is, it's called a CRM, customer relationship manager, blah, blah, blah. Some guys that I'd worked with moved to new companies and were like, Kyle, can you help me set up Salesforce? We don't have people here. And I had been doing that at my old company, running operations. So, you know, word gets out that I'm doing this, a few people hit me up, and all of a sudden I've got 5 customers that need help kind of on an ad hoc basis. I start bringing people on, I bring on a co-founder, and like 3 years ago, we did 400K in revenue. Love it. Awesome. 2 years ago, we did 700K. Last year, we did 3 million. This year, we're on track for 10 or 15. Like it's just complete up into the right growth. We got 35 FTEs. It's crazy right now.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
Crazy. Wait, so did you get, so you were at University of Oregon for what major again?
Business, studying entrepreneurship.
So then how did you fall into like coding and that world? Like, was there something that like interested you? Was there a class? Was there like, what made you fall into that world?
So when I was doing sales stuff at that tech company I worked at, I then moved into running business operations. So I was setting up systems and tools and processes, and I had to learn to code to like help me out. And then that stuff that I did was primarily all in Salesforce. So like our head of sales got canned and went to a new company and called me right away. He's like, rebuild the same thing over here. Then 2 other people called me and said, rebuild the same thing. So I kind of learned through exposure how to build out some systems and processes for businesses. And then now we've got 100 customers that have projects in flight at any given time. We're kind of doing all the same thing. So yeah, it's crazy.
That's awesome. Wow. I feel like it's a complete 180.
180. Yeah.
Hanging out in helicopters, shooting at people, knocking down doors. To now.
Everything's easy compared to that.
I'm sure we got a bunch of questions for you. Doty, I know Kyle's story. What other type of like bunch of quick fire questions you got for Kyle?
Have you ever been shot at?
Bunch of times.
Can you give a story?
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is one. I actually just listened to a podcast of 2 guys I was in the Rangers with. There was this mission, we call it like Veterans Hill. It was on Veterans Day. We'd float in to go do this mission. Typically what we do is we'd fly into Chinooks and we'd walk in like 2 or 3 miles and sneak into people's house in the middle of the night and go catch them. So we were walking through the desert of Iraq, trying to get to this area where we wanted to go catch guys. We were walking along a road, and we got word from like the planes flying over there, like there's a convoy of Americans like 10 miles out that's driving your way. You need to get off the road because they may mistake you for like bad guys walking through the desert at nighttime. So we wheel off into the desert, and there's this like little hill about 500 or 600 meters in front of us. And we're going to basically walk around the hill and get back onto the road and keep going as the convoy passes us. So we're just going to loop around, no big deal. Well, as we're looping around, we hear a gunshot shooting us, and it's 2 a.m. And we know that there's a little outpost on top of this little hill 600 meters away. And everywhere is like a billiard ball table, totally flat, not a bush, not a tree, nothing. It's just desert in every direction. There's a tiny hill. Well, then they start shooting at us like crazy because they can see shadows. Then RPGs start coming in. It's like, then it turns out there's tanks that were stationed a mile up the road that were shooting at us that we didn't know about. And then that vehicle convoy starts to maneuver on us as well. And they don't know that we're Americans. They think that we're bad guys in the desert. So everybody's shooting at us. We don't want to shoot back because we know that they're good guys. They're like Kurdish outposts. So F-16s come in and drop flares over our position to show like, hey, these are Americans, you don't want to shoot them.
Oh.
Well, all those folks thought, oh, the jets are supporting us. So they're just shooting at us like crazy. There's 40 of us in the desert spread out, and we're just getting shot at from 3 different sides. Nowhere to go. RPGs blown up within 15 yards of me. Just, you could feel the concussion from them. So then we start shooting back. We're running out of ammo because like, you got to conserve, who knows what's going to happen. Well, anyways, an Apache comes in and lands between us and the vehicles that were maneuvering on us. And a guy got out and was like, stop, because we couldn't communicate because we had to go up like 12 layers. It had to come back down 12 layers to be able to say, don't shoot at us. There was some deconfliction that just didn't happen. So we were getting just like shot at like crazy. 40 dudes, not one person was wounded on our side. Totally came out totally safe, got on helicopters and flew out of there. I was like, we call it Veterans Hill because it's on Veterans Day in 2006 or something like that. So yeah, that was like the craziest firefight we got into.
With each other.
With a bunch of basically coalition forces. Yeah, it was nuts.
Oh my goodness. That's a good story.
Kyle, what does it mean to be a veteran in 2021?
Oh man, I think that's a good question. I think like veterans have a different perspective than a lot of other folks, right? They've been in the military, they've represented the country, they typically want to serve for a purpose. And I think that veterans have a big potential role to play in being leaders in the country. Like we represented the country to defend it. We have an obligation to support it and to be out there and be advocates, not just for veterans, but for the country, for all people. And I think that veterans are underrepresented everywhere. I don't see very many veterans in leadership positions in business. That's a major, I'm so sad to see so few enlisted veterans. You see officers all the time. I was like, I was a captain at West Point, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't see any enlisted special operations people in business. It's super sad to see because they have so much potential, like leadership things that I've learned. I'm just one of the few people who happen to end up in this position, but there's so much to learn from them. And I wish there were more.
Why do you think that is?
Probably, well, okay, so you have people who are enlisted in the military. There's a portion of them who are not meant for college, right? They joined the military because they had awful backgrounds. They could have gone to jail instead, right? So you have a portion of people who like joined the military because they had to, not because it's a mechanism to get to college. I happen to be intentional about it, but a lot of folks are just like, I don't know what to do with my life. This is a way to kind of get on track. And those folks aren't necessarily like coming out saying, I'm going to go study entrepreneurship and start my own business. Like it's just a different group of people. And so many folks end up coming from the military, they go into roles that are similar. I'm going to go be a police officer, a firefighter, those types of things, hugely critical roles that we need. And they do great in those jobs. With business, you need like a type of person that has that mindset. And for some reason, they end up going to college before they join the military. So they end up as officers. It's just kind of a different mentality. I went in with, again, parents who had not been to college. That wasn't a thing. So it's like I was this kind of weird breed of person that had these different skills that just aligned me for joining the military and then getting into business.
You mentioned that you mentioned you have 2 kids.
Yeah, 2 daughters.
2 daughters. How old?
4, almost 5, 1, almost 2.
So you've mentioned your history with your family being involved in the military. Do you think it's going to continue with them?
Aliza was asking me about this. Like, what if they want to join? We've talked about this a bunch. I don't think that it's hard to know. Who knows, right? Like, they're only 4. They could be totally different. They will be totally different when they're older. The way I think about it is like, I hope they don't feel like that's their only option. I hope that they feel like they can choose to join the military if it's right for them, or they could choose something else. If they want, if Scout or Murphy is like, I want to be a fighter pilot in the Air Force, I'd be like, awesome, go do that. That sounds like the coolest job you could possibly have. But if they're like, I don't have any choices, I don't know what to do, like, I hope I've helped encourage and develop them so they can make that choice versus like they're painted into a corner.
So you're a really proud veteran. I know this. On the 4th of July, you love wearing your American flag shorts.
Yeah.
Blue shirt.
You don't wear your Ranger shorts?
They're like Ranger panties, but in American flag form.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Sorry, Daniel.
This is kind of a hot topic, so I'm curious what is your view on guns and gun reform?
Oh man, paint me a corner here. So okay, I'll use an analogy. In the military, everybody's got a gun. You're overseas, you're in combat. You got a gun, you got ammo. You got to be ready to use it in case bad guys come over the wall. That said, most people when you're overseas are not allowed to even have a magazine in the chamber because accidental discharges happen. Even people who are trained make mistakes. I think that like the Constitution shows that people have the right to own and bear arms. I think that like we should find ways to enable, encourage, and train people to be adept at using weapons, and those people should be the ones who protect us. That said, like there are reasonable restrictions in place. For example, you can't go buy a machine gun, you can't own grenades, you can't have a rocket launcher. There are reasonable restrictions. How we take that further, I don't know, but I think that like there are reasonable limits to be set.
Sure.
And so where that line is drawn is totally unclear, but I think that it's right that we do have some limits. I hope that answers your question. It's
you know
it's
me. I think Doty and I are the same way. My motto is shoot jumpers, not guns, but I'm not the same as everybody else.
But I think that's a valid point though. Like owning a gun, as long as you're trained with it, like
it's a real responsibility. The amount of effort to kill a person is 7 pounds. That's the strength. That's a pressure of a trigger on an M16 to fire it. 7 pounds of effort. You get handed to a 4-year-old, they can squeeze 7 pounds. That means you can put the power to end a person's life in a child on accident or on purpose. It's such a low barrier to something that you can't undo. Guns are a real powerful tool. They have a place, hunting, personal defense, things like that. I don't think they're just a thing like candy you hand them to everybody and say, have a good time with them. It's a real serious thing you got to take very seriously. Like in the Rangers, if you had an accidental discharge, meaning you fired your gun when you didn't want to, you're out. You're not allowed in here anymore. We got to take this seriously. If you don't have your safety on, except for when you're shooting your gun, you're out of here. That's not acceptable. And I think like, if we want to set standards like that of like, this is how you use them safely. And if you can't use them safely, like that's not okay. Yeah. I think that's what's frustrating is people who seem to be the biggest pro gun and in your face about it are the people who are the least exposed to using them for real. And it's like the people who know how serious and dangerous these things are, like they want reasonable restrictions, I think.
Yeah, I know we're running close on times. This actually hits home to Kyle and I. I know we know somebody that's had a little accident, but that's maybe a future episode. That would be an interesting conversation. Kyle, you'll take a sales demo for donations to Lead the Way Fund. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Lead the Way Fund and the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, they're nonprofits who help special operations folks. Oftentimes it's folks who've passed away, their families. So they'll pay for college for the kids of fallen soldiers who died that were special ops, or they'll help spouses, things like that. So like if anyone wants to call with me for any reason, oftentimes I get hit up by people trying to sell me something. I'll definitely take a demo if you make a donation to one of those charities. Otherwise, I'm going to ignore your email.
Love that.
Yeah.
Kyle, why is golf the greatest game on earth?
I mean, I started playing when I was like 6. What I like about it is that you are never done getting better. It's something you can always improve on forever. You're never done. That's what I would say. It's my favorite sport. That's
awesome. How can our listeners get a hold of you?
Find me on LinkedIn is probably the best one. Email me at Kyle@Kicksaw or Kyle@SIFDay.com. Any of those work?
Beautiful.
All right, you ready for some competitive banter?
Let's do it.
Let's banter.
I'm gonna let you guys know I did not do a lot of research on this because I just kind of wanted to go from the heart. But here's the topic: greatest athlete or greatest golfers all time. Okay, Kyle, you first. Doty second. Me third. Fourth. We'll snake back.
Tiger Woods number 1. I mean, we grew up with Tiger Woods as like the greatest. I'm so sad to hear that he had his accident as of late and that his career hasn't gone awesome over the last few years. But like seeing the comeback has been awesome. But like Daniel and I played varsity golf, played high school golf, and Tiger Woods was the man. We'd be in the golf shop getting ready to go play a round, and he was playing in the Masters. We're like, this is incredible to watch. So like, I mean, we talk about Tiger Woods as kids all the time growing up. He's like someone we totally looked up to. So sorry, I stole the easiest one.
Yeah.
Oh, that was my number 1 too. I mean, I think that's pretty easy. I'm not going to banter that. I'm going to say Phil. I'm going to say Phil Mickelson.
Daniel's like a Phil fan. I hate Phil.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like Phil that much.
I like him for multiple reasons. I think he's an awesome golfer. I like his presence on the course. I also met him at Madison Square Garden. He was at a WNBA basketball game with his daughter.
That's cool.
Is
So
he a
it's
nice
like
guy?
hits home, really nice guy.
Okay, I gotta change
See,
my mind.
I think that's where everybody fails is like, I've heard he's a phony. I love Phil, but I've heard like he's a phony. Like a lot of that's just like a facade.
Yeah.
We know a lot of people in the golf industry that kind of say that, but like, I mean, I would have had him. He is my favorite golfer of all time. So
Yeah.
I'll throw that out there.
sure.
Going strong.
A dark horse in here. I don't know if you guys threw this out there. Annika Sorenstam. It's my.
Ooh.
I think she's the winningest golfer all time on the women's tour. She might be, I don't know. She might be the winningest golfer all time. I mean, she was dominant. So, I mean, can't be as dominant as Tiger, but I think she's got to be close.
It's close to it.
So I'll go with her. And then another low hanging fruit. And I'm going to pick this one. I don't know wins or anything, but I'm going to be just because of his personality and how he was off the golf course. But I'm going to go with Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer, can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. Love Arnold Palmer's drink. Big fan.
Is that iced tea lemonade?
Yeah.
Have you ever had was it Sydney Palmer?
No.
Green tea lemonade. Tea
Oh.
lemonade. Super good.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think it's Cindy Palmer, but it's like something Palmer. It's his wife. Yeah.
Check it.
All
All right.
I'll who that real quick.
Doty, you got?
I got Payne Stewart.
Oh,
Man, oh.
you just
The
love his
scally
hat.
cap, the knickers, all of that. I don't know about his golf game and like but he was always pretty good. And then he has a statue at Pinehurst, which is I golfed that a few years back. Awesome golf course.
Yeah.
Low
All
key
right,
brag.
I would go, this is going to hit me and Daniel close. Bob McAllister. He
Oh, I love
totally
that.
informed how we played golf. So when we were in high school, we had a golf coach who played in the US Open, like in the 60s. And so that he was like informative in how we think about how to play golf. And so even though maybe he wasn't the greatest golfer of all time, he's the most impactful for how Daniel and I play golf today.
It's a great one. He's talked to my high school team. I'm on a pod with Kendra here coming out soon. Bob won two times on the PGA Tour. He won the LA Open, which is now, I think, the Genesis. Yeah, great pick. Love that. You get to pick another one, Kyle.
Oh my God, another one? Ooh, I'd go Sam Snead only because that was my first set of clubs were Sam Snead clubs. Like that's like the name I would have. It's like they were from the 80s and it said Sam Snead. So I saw the name 100,000 times.
I have a putter in my other room. That's a Sam Snead putter. That's funny.
Totally. Yeah.
Doty, what do you got?
My last guy is John Daly.
Oh,
John Daly.
Grip it and rip it.
I love it.
That's who I mirror my golf game after.
For sure.
For sure, you are like that. Mine actually might be the best golfer all time. This one should have probably been picked either right after or right before Tiger, but we didn't. Jack Nicklaus. I mean,
For sure.
I think he's the winningest golfer all time. I'm not really
Yeah.
sure. I know he's won the most majors. But yeah.
Good pick.
He's a good one. I mean, and Michelle Wee. I'm a big fan of Michelle Wee and just how she started so young.
Yeah.
It's pretty dominant, but
Lexi Thompson beat our friend Kendra in the US Open qualifier. Kyle, thanks for being on the pod. I think I know you're like a really good friend of mine, but I think you really are just like a true.
which I'm still wondering why.
I don't know sometimes.
You're really just a true like personal success story, you know.
Thanks, dude.
Just growing up in a small town to be tech entrepreneur. Like I think it's awesome. I'm veteran.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I've had a ton of awesome influences through my life. So it's not just me, it's all the people who I've been fortunate enough to, like parents, your parents, all of our friends growing up. I've just had awesome people around me my whole life who I think have totally influenced me. So it's not a me thing. It's all the people in the community that's supported me.
Yeah, and it's awesome just hearing how you just love the simple things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so awesome. And then of course, thanks for sharing your stories. I know it can't be easy to relive that, but really enjoyed it. So I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, guys.
Okay, man. Cheers it. We're getting out of here.
Peace
All right.
out.
See ya.